This is the Memory Palace. I'm Nate DiMeo. Is there any sweeter sound than a washing machine? The washing machine manufacturers do everything in their power to silence it. To tame the rumble, to suppress the sudsy slosh and the hiss of an open valve, they undertake Herculean or Euclidean efforts of engineering. The inner barrel in today's front-loading, high-efficiency washing machine spins 1,200 times per minute or more as it flings the water and soap off your clothes, forcing it through those little holes to collect in the fixed exterior barrel and then drain. 1,200 revolutions per minute isn't jet engine fast, but it is crazy fast considering it's happening inside that smallest metal box in your basement or your mudroom or the closet in your apartment, jammed in there with the wires and the springs and control panels and heating elements and hoses and stoppers and LED screens and dials and gizmos aplenty, who's-its and what's-its galore, all the things a modern washing machine needs to do all the things the modern washing machine does, modulating for fabric type and color and relative delicacy and the weight of the load, just innovation after innovation, incredible feat of mechanical engineering upon incredible feat of mechanical engineering, all in that smallish box, and all kept remarkably quiet. All those little parts that can shake and clank and sputter just when they're doing their own thing, never mind when its largest part, that inner barrel, does its many things, that rolling tumble, its choreographed stops and starts, and that delirious sprint to the finish line, the spin cycle, all whirring fury, and all kept to an acceptable volume by acoustics engineers who literally tune the frequency of all that rattling and humming with dampers and viscoelastic suspensions, not by reducing vibration, but by reducing the amplitude of the frequency of that vibration, turning a howl into a mellifluous hum that can go on unnoticed as you go about your day. And therein lies the great gift of the washing machine. The gift not of clean clothes, the gift of your day itself. For the first 1,000 millennia that humans have been wearing clothes on this planet, those clothes were rarely washed. And there were obvious and odorous drawbacks to that way of living. But there was no good way to do it. There was no soap, not really, and certainly not widely until the 19th century. There was just water and rocks. You go to the river and get your clothes wet and then scrape and scrape and scrape them with some small stone on the face of some larger stone, and then leave them to dry. And for all of that effort, you'd have slightly less dirty clothes, and the beginnings of some sort of repetitive stress injury that no one would be able to diagnose for another however many millennia, which would become yet another complaint in your most likely short and miserable life. At some point, wealthy Romans, no fans of misery, started getting other people to wash their togas. And out of that proto-laundry service industry came certain innovations. Came cleaning with lye, which does work if one has proper protection for your hands and your eyes, which one certainly did not have then, and thus the wealthy Romans were making their lives that little bit better by making the lives of their workers shorter and more miserable, which is, of course, the rinse and repeat of history. They also had their clothes washed in vats of human urine, which on the one hand makes some sense because there is ammonia in human urine, but on the other hand is having your clothes washed in vats of human urine. Time marched on. And at some point, people started to figure out that water cleaned clothes better if the water moved through the clothes, or vice versa. It would push the dirt through the weave of the fabric. And so sailors started to put their laundry in nets and hang the bundles off the sides of boats as they bobbed along. Some people learned that you could boil the clothes, that the bubbling action would do the same trick. Others made wooden tools, specifically designed to agitate the clothes while in the water, the dolly. Picture a broom handle attached to the bottom of a chair. Then you take that and you push the clothes down into the water, and they get tangled up around the legs, and then you'd stamp it and spin it and swoosh them around. After which came the washboard, with that fan pattern of wooden slates or corrugated metal that you would scrub the clothes up and down on, or your fingers to make that chick sound in your jug band. And all of those methods took forever, and all of them, except for the boat thing, were exhausting work. And as people started to live in closer and closer quarters, as cities rose and industrialization came, people couldn't just wear dirty clothes all the time. They smelled bad. And so that exhausting work wasn't just what you had to do on the occasional exhausting day. It became an all-the-time thing. It became central to the work of any household, and the work of the household mainly fell to the women within it, in addition to whatever strenuous and tedious work they were already doing there in the home or out of it. Now there were hours spent most days working that dolly or that washboard, the water cold in her cold water flat, her hands pruning, her shoulders, wrists aching, her back strong but sore and stiff from lugging the laundry, a task that gets harder the closer she gets to done. When the clothes sop and then she has to wring them out and lift them up to the line with her weary arms. Then came the machines, each one building on one of those early innovations, one that could agitate the clothes or scrape the clothes or push water back through the clothes. They weren't all great. Some clogged too easily, some required so much cranking of handles and turning of knobs that they wound up being no easier than just doing it the old way. Some were electric, sometimes they'd blow up. But even when they didn't, there'd always be something that they couldn't do. Dozens and dozens of manufacturers sprung up in the early 1900s, all chasing the dream, the washing machine that could do it all. Because to do that, to build a magic box that would eliminate all of that work, would be revolutionary. You can see this in the advertising. In one, an etching of a man in the old European style, a heroic nude, reluctantly laying a heaping pile of laundry on the back of a half-dressed kneeling woman, her shoulders stooped in defeat. Above the image, the slogan, "To lighten the burden of womankind." Another manufacturer put its sales pitch in simple terms: save women's lives. And this is overstating it, of course, but not by much. And there are still women and men, but most often women, who go down to the river to wash their clothes. Those for whom the work of washing is backbreaking and bleak. Of course there are. This is a story about a certain type of progress for a certain privileged people. But think of the things one gets to do when one is not always doing laundry. Think of the freedom of free time, in the way the world was opened up by the washing machine. The first all-in-one washing machine, the first one that looks like the one you have at your home or in your local laundromat or at your parents' house or in the basement of your building by the elevator. The kind where you open up a door and toss some clothes in, put in some soap, turn a dial or two, and push a button and then go do something else for a while. Hit the market in the 1930s, and then became more and more ubiquitous, first in the US and the UK after World War II, and then spread around the globe as so many mid-century conveniences did. And since then, improving all along, adding more features, getting more efficient, packing more and better parts to do more and better stuff inside that smallish box, making the inner barrel spin ever faster and faster and faster, all while getting quieter and quieter and quieter. But I say let it roar. Let it rumble like it used to, loud enough to be heard upstairs, so she knows she can still keep her feet up, that she can watch her stories for a little longer, can linger on the phone, or stay in the world of her book, in Paris between the wars, or on some windswept moor, using the sounds of the washing machine changing cycles to mark the time. This time that it gave her. This episode of The Memory Palace is produced by me, Nate DiMeo, with research assistance from Eliza McGraw. Elizabeth Aubert is the engineering assistant of The Memory Palace. This show is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX. If you ever want to drop me a line, you can do so at nate@thememorypalace.us. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook @The Memory Palace. I hope you have a lovely day.
Radiotopia from